people that do know me from high school and that see me on the news bump into me and they give me a disgusting look, I would feel I would feel embarrassed. I think that's honestly the most difficult thing I could say.
A Hampton man is accused of molesting 2 underage children in Milford. 18-year-old Willie Colon was arrested yesterday. He's charged with assault. Police say the incidents happened in Milford in August.
All right, and we are about to watch the parole hearing of a man who was arrested in 2019 when he was just 18 for what he did to someone who was 15 and also someone who was younger than 15. But the judge let him out, I guess, on a bond to wait for sentencing. And while he was out, he continued to catch more felonies. It wasn't only until 2024 that he was finally sentenced for that crime that he committed in 2019. He was given 5 years for all of his felonies combined and up for parole just about a year into that sentence, if you can't make it up. Anyways, we'll watch this parole hearing and I'll unpack it with the details that we have at the end.
Please state your name and inmate number for the record, sir.
My name is Willie Colon, inmate number 433367.
This hearing is being conducted in consideration of the parole application for Willie Colon, 433367. He is serving a sentence of 12 years, execution suspended after 5 years with 10 years of probation to follow for sex assault 2, sex assault 4, 2 counts of illegal sexual contact with a victim under the age of 16, 2 counts of risk of injury to a child. As of today, records reflect a parole eligibility date of May 22nd, 2024 at 50%. There is no victim input in this case. There is an offender accountability plan for the offender. It has been reviewed and showed the offender has completed the following domestic violence to date. Utilizing the statewide collaborative offender risk evaluation system, the offender overall score on the SRT falls within the high range of risk for recidivism. In utilizing the static 99R, the offender overall score for sexual offense recidivism falls within the moderate to high range. Mr. Colon, this is your opportunity to express to the board why you believe you should be granted parole. You may begin, sir.
Okay. So my experience being incarcerated actually changed my way of viewing life. I know when I was young and 18, when I caught this case, I was just a young, immature, irresponsible young man who really didn't see the world in front of him. He just saw, oh, let's party, let's do whatever we want. And being incarcerated for as long as I've been changed my way of viewing everybody and how I see other people and treat other people and how I treat myself. I never learned as a young teen and a young kid how to show respect, how to give respect, and how to self-respect myself. I just honestly did what I wanted. And being here in a structured environment taught me a lot and it opened my eyes. And I honestly believe if I never came to jail or was incarcerated, I honestly probably would have been dead. And I'm honestly not happy, but under the circumstances, glad that I experienced this because I would have never learned and never would have grew, because I honestly believe I'm a completely different person from when I first came in and to now and so on forward. So I honestly believe that I should and I wish and hope I could get granted parole, but if I don't, I can understand that and accept that. And if I was any younger, I wouldn't have been able to do that. And I want to show myself and I want to show the people that are believing in me, my family, my friends, and show everybody that I could become this responsible young man that they know I could become, because I'm not getting any younger. So I want to show everybody that I could be that man that they know that I can be, because when I was young, like I said, I just never thought before I acted. And now being in here, I've avoided a lot of issues by thinking, reassessing the situation, and either avoiding it or solving problems. I would have never knew that if I never came in here. So I'm glad that I experienced this, but That's pretty much, oh my God.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Ch0M0. I appreciate your opening statement. So what's going to happen today is that we're all going to take turns asking you questions. And then when the questions are over, we're going to deliberate, and then we'll give you our answer today.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so we're going to start with my colleague, panel member Smith Palmieri.
All right, thank you, Mr. Sakauskas. So, Mr. Cologne, I'm pleasantly surprised by your opening statement. In reading your file, you were all over the place. You're before us today for the sexual assault of a minor. You had domestic violence cases pending in the background. You have protective orders. So, and you're young, right? These sexual assaults took place when you were 18.
Yes, ma'am.
Then you're out on bond and you're having troubles with your girlfriends. Were they your girlfriends at the time? Two different ones?
No, it was just, I had one girlfriend, but I was living with my ex-girlfriend. So, well, we weren't together. I was just with one, but there was two involved, correct?
Okay. All right. And then you have protective orders with the two victims of the sexual assault. All right.
Yes, ma'am.
And those protective orders are in place until 2074 or 2074 and 2099.
Yes, ma'am.
What do you think that means, those protective orders?
Just stay away, don't have no contact, don't have nobody contact them for me, anything like that. Just literally just pretend they don't exist.
Exactly. You see them on the street, you walk the other
Avoid them.
way.
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
no social media, no being in the same gas station as them, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Avoid them by all means necessary.
Exactly. All right. So let's go back to the charges that you're here before us today. 2 counts of sexual assault with a victim between the ages of 13 and 15. You did participate in a sex offender treatment evaluation. And I read in the evaluation, not the treatment that you're doing, that you deny that it happened. Is that accurate?
At first, I didn't take responsibility, yes, because I didn't think that saying it happened would change somebody's perspective of me. I was honestly just scared and avoiding, in denial. That's the right word I was looking for. I was in denial that I feel like if I were to admit to it, people would look at me in a different way. And even if I did want to explain everything, they still wouldn't hear me because they would just be focused on that one particular thing. So I did deny it at first, but I'm able to accept responsibility and understand, yes, it happened, I did it, but I'm trying to move on and show everybody that I've changed and I don't think the way I used to think. And I'm trying to prove that to everybody that believe in me.
Okay. What does it mean to take responsibility for those charges?
So to not be in denial for one, and to accept that, yes, I should have thought about it before it happened. And unfortunately it happened and I did it. So.
Well, why was it wrong?
The age difference. It was my immaturity that didn't realize that we were both in a different age range.
Because when I read the police reports, I got a sense that you were oblivious to the fact that you were 18 years old, considered an adult, and having sexual relations with two individuals that were under the age of 8, actually 15 and younger.
In those scenarios, yeah, it was my responsibility to verify the age and realize, okay, I'm the adult, you're not. I had to be the responsible one, and I failed doing that. And at the time, when I did, like, the police questioned me and they did the police report, I was oblivious to, like, oh, who are these girls? Like, I don't know who they are. But after a while, after thinking about it, and I'm like, okay, I was scared of people looking at me like, oh, he's a creep. Oh, he doesn't know how to think for himself. So I was just in denial when I was young.
Are you right now in the sex offender? Well, let me, I just want to wrap up with talking about the charges. So just so we're very clear, not only is it wrong, but it is illegal. They are not of an age to consent.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I didn't know that the legal age of consent, and I didn't know that even though she could say yes and I could say yes, the law is the law and the age gap is still illegal. And I didn't know the difference between her saying yes and me saying yes and coming to an agreement to what the statute said. So, and that's my fault for not knowing as the adult. But now I learned in those sexual assault classes, and I've learned in the domestic violence classes all the difference of law and what's okay and what's not okay.
So, and then you were out on bond while these charges were pending. Is
Yes,
that
ma'am.
right?
Yes,
And
ma'am.
then that's when you got the other arrest that you have suspended sentences for, that
Yes,
were
ma'am.
domestic
Yes, ma'am.
with the girlfriend. Okay. All right. You are currently taking the sex offender treatment program?
Yes, I have I believe 3 weeks left of the 16-week program.
Okay. Of the 13 weeks that you've completed, have you attended all those sessions?
Yes, every single one, ma'am.
Okay. So I hear a lot of words from what we know you learn in that program, as well as the domestic violence. So I heard you use words like responsibility. I heard you use words like consent, words like respect. Tell me, what is the most significant factor that you've taken from the program so far?
In which program?
In the sex offender treatment program.
What significant factor?
What significance that you've learned so far?
That even though, like I was saying before, it's okay to come to an agreement with someone, it's still not okay if we're both not of legal age. If we're both impaired, if we're both like smoking or drinking, that's still not considered legal because we both can't make decisions for ourselves while being impaired, if that makes sense. So I learned that a lot because I have smoked, and I'm a bartender. I've been doing bartending for 4 years since I was 20 years old out on those bonds. And I've learned a lot. Being a bartender, I can't just, oh, hey, like, oh, we're both drunk, like, you want to hook up? That's not okay. So learning that in this class, I feel, especially if it applies to my occupation, I feel like that's a big, big factor of me learning that.
Okay. So you're also, I feel like you're also leaning in to maybe what you've learned in the domestic violence program. Did you do a domestic violence program?
I was in the program for 8 weeks out of the 10 or 12-week program, but unfortunately, I got into a little altercation with another inmate on December 8th, and they unfortunately had to kick me out of the program. And I tried to explain the situation. I wasn't, pretty much they were like, unfortunately, because you caught the ticket, we have to put you into the next cycle of the group, which is understandable. But I was 8 weeks into the 10 or 12-week program of the domestic violence with Mr. Aviles.
Okay. Do you know when the next cycle is? When you might get back in?
Yeah, I believe it's in like the middle of March. Because I feel like Mr. Aviles, I spoke to him and I wrote him a request and I asked him, can you get me in the next cycle? He told me that this cycle he's in finishes in the middle of March. So hopefully I'll be in there at the end of March, by the end of March.
Right. So you've had 13 weeks of the short-term sex offender treatment program. You've had 8 weeks of domestic violence. Tell me 2 things that are most important about a relationship.
One, to make sure that both of us are happy and respect each other. I'm very big on loyalty and communication. Those are the main things that in a relationship I feel that are important.
When you said in your opening statement, I've changed my way of viewing how I treat others, what did you mean by that?
So I used to be like, what's the word? Like you could say selfish. I used to only think for myself. So that's mainly a lot of like issues me and my ex-girlfriends have. I don't communicate. I always think like, oh, it's okay to do stuff if it benefits me, but not the significant other. So now I could think like, okay, if I were to do this, I'll be happy, but will she be happy? Will this make her happy? So like, I never was able to think for the two of us. I would only be thinking about myself. So now I could think for both and communicate and come to an agreement of, hey, what do you want to do? Does this make you happy? Because this makes me happy, stuff like that.
The domestic violence that you had in the community, the violation of protective orders, the threatening, that's why you need to do that domestic violence program.
Yes, ma'am.
The level of chaos within that relationship is unacceptable.
Yes, I understand, ma'am.
So let's talk about those disciplinary reports that you have. You alluded to in December 2024, December 8th to be exact, that you had an altercation with another inmate. Why did you get into a fight at the facility?
So some situations are avoidable, but at the time I didn't think and was like, hey, like, so the situation pretty much started over the phone. So everybody has their own individual tablets, but my tablet is currently like, you can say broken, because when you plug in your mic, it doesn't, your peoples can't hear you on the microphone. So I have to use the wall phone in the rec room. And I was already on the phone with my mom and talking, and the other inmate came from behind me and kind of like snatched the phone out of my hand. And then I snatched it back, and then he swung at me, and then all I did was push him. And then that's when they considered that an altercation. So unfortunately I went to SAG to RHU and did 5 days because of that, what they call a fight. So I tried to talk it out at first, but it was just a split like moment second that when I snatched the phone back, he swung at me and I just reacted. So I should have been the bigger person and not snatch the phone back and just go to a different phone or waited for somebody to get off the phone to hop on the phone. But I was already in the middle of a conversation with my mom, so I kind of felt disrespected, and then I just took the phone back in a reaction moment.
Okay. All right. Well, hindsight is 20/20, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and you have two additional disciplinary reports, both on the same day, for
Yes.
basically having an altercation with one of the COs.
Yes, that was a year and 4 months prior to that this recent ticket that I had. That was in the facility of I believe Bridgeport County. I was getting escorted to RHU in handcuffs, and I kind of like jumped, like I was getting escorted backwards, and I jumped, and then when I jumped, I accidentally kicked the lieutenant's hand that had the mace spray in it. And so the mace spray like kind of like discharged, and they considered in the spray got on everybody, the COs, me, and they said that was they were going to give me an assault on DOC ticket. So
Okay, they did.
yes.
All right, so let's go through your release plan. We have an indication that your mother said she would sponsor you
Yes,
in the
ma'am.
community. You've been talking with her?
Yes, ma'am. I just got off the phone with her this morning. So
What did she have to say about today's hearing?
she just said, be honest. Just be honest and show them who you really are. And that's what I'm trying to do.
I do get that impression, I'll tell you. And you can go back to bartending at the restaurant?
Yes, ma'am. My bartender and my boss and my bartender manager, they know around, they understand my situation, and they knew that I was turning myself in, and they were like, just handle what you got to handle. When you come home, this job is here for you. They support me. They're with me. So they're my support system, you could say.
So tell me, what are some goals that you have when you are back in the community? How do you see your life going?
I honestly am going to save money. I'm very bad at budgeting. So I'm gonna try to get on a financial budgeting plan, and my mom's gonna actually show me a little bit. And I want to get my apartment. I want to get a car. I want to get my permit and license. I was in the middle of getting my permit, and I failed my first test, so I was trying to go back for that. But
So you were driving around with no license?
No. I didn't have no car. No, I was taking the city bus, but that was my plan. When I was out on bond for those 2 years, I was having my friends drive me around. My mom would even drive me around, and if nobody could drive me around, I would take the city bus to work. So that's what I'm saying. My plan would be: I want to get my permit. I want to get a license. I want to get a car, an apartment. And my cousin actually is like convincing me to like apply to like community college. And I wasn't really a big fan of college because I wasn't really book smart, but I was an all-state track star in my high school, 2016 to 2019, and at West Haven High. So I had horse ride scholarships to track and field, and I kind of like blew that because I got into this situation and I got incarcerated, but I kind of gave up on college. But being here, my cousin has been telling me, hey, it's not that bad, just give it a try. So I'm honestly thinking about applying to community college when I come home as well, once I get like situated in stable environment, stuff like that. But that's definitely in my mind.
Okay, so continue your education, even doing a vocational training is
Yes.
another option. Okay.
When I was in Manson Youth, when I began, when I got arrested when I was 18, when I got incarcerated for 17 months before I bonded out, I was actually in 2 vocational groups for the automotive, like the car body work and stuff like that. So I was learning a lot about cars. I'm a big car person. So.
Right. I mean, I read you seem to, it's hard to balance out the gentleman that is able to work 3 jobs and then the gentleman that's before us today who made very bad choices and created such chaos for the young victims of your case and the other individuals that you had the protective orders, that you violated the protective orders with. Go ahead.
May I say this? I also realized that a lot of it was because I'm smoking a lot and I used to smoke a lot of weed. And I thought that weed was a good coping mechanism, even though I was trying to get my marijuana license. But honestly, when I come home, I'm not smoking no more. I realized a lot that if I would have never been smoking or never introduced to weed, I wouldn't be putting myself in situations where I could be put at fault. I could be getting in trouble. And that's just me being around the people that I used to be around. And thank God they're not in my life no more. So I know for a fact when I come home, I'm not smoking no more weed. I'm not smoking no more drugs, nothing. I'm going to live a straight life and occasionally socialize with my coworkers and drink once in a blue, of course, on occasion, but responsibly at least. And not just out of, oh, let's just do this because it's fun. It's not like that. I just turned 24 6 days ago, so I'm not getting any younger. So 25 is right around the corner. So it's time to grow up.
It is. And, marijuana, substances, they cloud your judgment, they
Yes.
impair your decision making, they make you lazy. So
I never knew any of that until I took these classes and they told me that those can be factors. I used to smoke weed and think, oh, I'm okay. I could do this, I could do that. But in all reality, I was fooling myself because I didn't know that.
What classes did you take that you learned that? Did you take a drug treatment program?
No, they mentioned that in domestic violence, and they also mentioned that in the sexual assault classes.
Okay. All right. What do you think is going to be difficult for you when you come back home?
Difficult, being seen in public, because I do feel ashamed of myself. I do feel like people that do know me from high school and that see me on the news bump into me and they give me a disgusting look. I would feel embarrassed. I think that's honestly the most difficult thing I could say. that I'm scared. I'm honestly scared of. I'm scared of people looking at me and like, oh, that's Willie from, yeah, he was in jail. And obviously I'm not going to entertain that, but it's like I don't know, like an ego thing. I don't want them to look at me like, oh, this sick, crazy monster when I messed up. I made a mistake and I learned from that mistake.
Right. Well, it is a reality check, right? I mean,
Yeah.
people are going to know that you were in
Of
jail. Do you know if you have to be on the sex offender registry or not?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, you do. 10
Yes,
years?
yes.
Okay. You know how important it is that to keep up with that? It's as
Yeah.
important as the protective orders.
Yes, ma'am. They told me that I had to like refile like every like what year or something like that.
I think it's quarterly.
Yes.
You have to notify them where you're living.
Yep. My probation officer, when I was out on the 2 bonds, like explained that to me and kind of gave me the glimpse of like how it works. So I'm able to do all that.
When you were out on bond, did the probation officer have you going to any programs?
Not no programs, but I did weekly check-ins every Wednesday in person. He also like visited me at work and would like visit me at home like unexpectedly, just random. I did urine tests, stuff like that. I always communicated with him.
Well, you have a lot of probation to follow this sentence. So whether you get parole or not
10 years.
today,
Yes,
10
ma'am.
years, that's a long time.
Yeah.
Do you think you did well with reporting to the probation officer in the community?
Yes.
Even though you were still having all these troubles?
Yes, I never failed my weekly check-ins. He always communicated and I communicated. I told him where I was at. Always. I asked permission when I couldn't be in the town of Milford. So when I did drive by Milford on the highway to go like Stanford, let's say, or Bridgeport, I always called them before I even entered the vicinity and was like, hey, I'm just letting you know, I'm giving you a heads up. I'm on 95 and I'm driving by and through Milford, but I'm not staying in Milford because my destination is Bridgeport or Stanford. And I always communicated anytime that I was close to that vicinity, so he's aware of where I am and what I'm doing.
As a person as a convicted sex offender, you know, your whereabouts will be monitored.
Yes, of course.
Okay. All right,
I was
Mr.
on
Cologne,
the GPS.
you were, so you understand the importance of compliance.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Mr. Cologne, anything else I should have asked you about that we didn't talk about?
That I could think of. I don't think so. No, ma'am.
Okay. All right, thank you. Well said, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Paul.
So everything's really been asked. That was a great exchange there, Board Member Smith Palmieri. I just have one area there's like a discrepancy, right?
Okay.
So when you are evaluated by DOC, you received a substance use score of a 1, which means there's no problem.
Yep.
And some of the examples that you just shared indicate that there may be a problem, right?
Okay.
Because you were talking about getting blasted every day, right?
Not every day, but yes, I understand what you're saying. Yep.
Okay. And then you really also related it to the to how you deal with things sexually. So were you high when these offenses happened?
When these offenses happened, no, I wasn't high, but I was around weed, I was around alcohol. But me personally, no, I wasn't high at the moment. It's just that me smoking for a long period of time impaired, like we talked about before, it impaired my thinking. Like now, that's why I say I'm not book smart. My head doesn't think the way that it used to because of so much weed that I've consumed as a young youth. So when I started smoking weed, I was young and about maybe like, I was like 13, 12 years old. And I smoked for a long period of time until to the point where I was like 16, 17. And that's when I realized I got to stop. And it was hard for me, but I got help from other people. So I used to I used to sell weed when I was young. I used to have friends, not a real drug dealer, but I had friends that, oh, hey, like, we know you smoke. You have any weed that we could buy off you? So, and I would do that, you know, on occasion, make a quick $10. And that's what kind of prompted this situation. Because in this, like, sexual assault case, I was at a party and they called me to supply weed for people that wanted to smoke. So I came, supplied the weed, and I just hung around for a little bit. And that's when that happened. And unfortunately, I committed the crime.
Okay, so, but you also gave an example of when you were like bartending.
Yes.
So,
I've
and
been
if
bartending.
if I'm here and they're there and we're under the influence, then, right, and I get that, and that's great insight, but is it commonplace that you're under the influence?
What do you mean, at work?
After work, I mean, I know what happens after work, you know,
Yeah,
it's like,
but during work, I'm sober. I don't drink. Even when people want to buy the bartender shots, I pour
Yeah.
water in my drink and I pretend like I'm small, like, you know.
Yeah.
I don't drink when I'm doing my occupation. I don't smoke when I'm like handling alcohol or anything like that, because I want to be professional when it comes to my occupation. That's always like,
of course. What I'm trying to get at is substance use related to you engaging with others sexually.
oh no, I don't believe it has anything to do with me. It just has to do with me, how I think. It's not how I act. It's not how I am around people. It has changed because I have been sober for so long now, that it changed the way that I see things that I would have never seen clearly if I were to continue to smoke, if that makes sense.
It does not make sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. So, because you understand and you've already said it, right? If you're under the influence, your judgment
It's impaired and I can't make correct decisions, know what's right from wrong. Yes, sir.
and why you're sitting there right now, you know, that's what I was trying to get at, because I was discussion and the evaluation that DOC gave, I wasn't.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't in balance. I understand.
I actually appreciate the interview that we've had with you today. So that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you very much.
I appreciate it as well. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Mr. Cologne, the questions are all done now. So what we're gonna do is, we're gonna deliberate.
Okay.
I'm just gonna ask that you be quiet. You can listen, but please don't interrupt.
Yes, sir.
All right, when we're done deliberating, we'll give you our answer.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Panel member Smith Palmieri.
Thank you, Mr. Vasquez. So as I said right from the beginning of my interview, Mr. Ch0M0 presented much differently, I think, than how I read about him on paper. I do hear offender change. I do hear a more mature individual, somebody that has certainly gained insight from the programs that he's done, not completed, but done so far. You know, he scores high for risk to recidivate. When we talk about risk factors, we talk about criminal attitudes and behavior patterns, which are addressed through the programs that he's currently participating in. I think we're all concerned about the charges. I do think that we need to consider that he was 18 years old when those offenses occurred, and that he's 24 now and seems to, well, you know, from reading the police reports, it was clear that he wasn't grasping why it was illegal for him to engage with those two young women. Being a 20-something-year-old now, I think he does know that it is not legal and they are not of age to consent. I know we're not talking about, he's not before us for the domestic violence cases that he has suspended sentences for, but they did happen while he was out on bond. I think they speak to his behaviors. Don't have any evidence that he was cooperative while he was on pretrial, but some of the events that he tells us that he was required to do sort of check the boxes of what we know that a pretrial supervision would include, including the GPS. I think we're all probably troubled with the most recent of the disciplinary reports, the fight that only happened a couple of months ago, because it's still that impulsive behavior, that not thinking. I would be interested to hear what my colleagues have to say. I will say that I'm torn between having him come back before us, finish the domestic violence program, finish the sex offender treatment program, do the Voices program that's still on his OAP. Maybe he could do some AA and NA, but however, then there's the other side of me that says, we could do a release contingent upon completion of the sex offender treatment program. He's going to have to do domestic violence in the community. And we can stipulate to that.
That was the sign in my head.
Because I do hear offender change. I do hear elements of
The other time I was proposed
growth and what we want him to take away from the programming and from being incarcerated. I do think he's 24 years old, and there's opportunity for him to change his life around very easily. So I'd be open to hear what others are thinking about.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I appreciate the interview that you had with him. And what I heard was a lot of offender change, where the insights are there. That what he did was wrong, and what led up to that. And that he knows what he did, and he knows that he needs to go through treatment and to deal with that. I actually don't know what the institutional-based private sexual behavior treatment would do for him that the treatment in the community wouldn't. That's I think he appears through his answers and as you said, with details of supervision on pretrial release and such, the compliance that he's able to share. For me, this happened at a young age. He's addressing it. I think that the DR, no DR is a good DR. I can not excuse, but I can understand the circumstances that it happened under. And where I am with this case is I came in here and I thought that this guy needs to have these programs before he's released. I don't feel that way right now. The DV program in the community is a good program to happen in the community because it's out there while he's out in the community dealing with every day with what he deals with and in a real life situation. I think he's reflected, and I say that because
Yes.
in his interview with you, he reflected on what he did that wasn't appropriate. He identified the fact, and it's a matter of age. He identified the fact that he wasn't interested in what the other partner in the relationship was interested in. He was interested in what he was interested in. And that's what gave him a lot of trouble, but he's understanding at this point of there's two people in a relationship, and the other person in the relationship should be considered in the decisions that you're making. And he did that with some of the programming that he had already in DB, right? And I really believe that based upon his interview today, that he was participating in that DB group while he was in there. You know, I think he's gleaned from that a good deal of information, and I think there's offender change can be measured what he got there. For me, I would be supportive of him at this point doing the programs in the community.
Okay, thank you, panel member Paul. Yeah, it was a surprise, I think, because when we read it here and how he presented was much better. So, and start rethinking this as we were going through.
Yes.
How we're going to handle the situation. He has taken 8 weeks of the domestic violence and almost completed it. And clearly, when he was talking to us, he could state some of the things that he learned from that. So I think as far as that program goes, based on his release, I don't think we need to send him back through that all the way through. You know, I would like to see him finish the sex offender. He's almost done with it, you know?
Mhm.
So I would be open to, you know, his, you know, granting his release based on a contingent of just completing the sex offender program. And then we can add the other programs that you guys, that we all believe he needs in the community. You know, he doesn't have a lot of time left with this. And I don't see any reason to cut this short, you know, by a couple weeks, you know what I mean?
I agree. And, you know, I failed to mention in my deliberation too, that when we look at his release plan, he has, you know, he's clearly been having contact with his mother. She appears to be, you know, supportive, a good influence. He can go back to his, he says I don't have a notation of verification, but he does say he can go back to one of the jobs he had previously. So I think that's important too, in terms of being able to acclimate successfully and productively in the community.
And it sounds like there's some positive support. I don't know if it was his cousin or his brother, someone mentioned to him about going to college, but other people in his family that are making some positive, you know, contributions to the conversations and support for him.
Agreed.
So are we in agreement on this being a grant, a contingency to complete sex offender treatment in the facility?
Mhm.
And then let's talk about the community-based treatments.
So you'll need to do domestic violence,
Yes.
problem sexual behavior treatment in the community,
Okay.
and no contact with minors.
Okay.
And then no contact with the victims, HG and HA. And I think had a very thorough conversation with him about those protective orders.
There is an additional protective order, but it's related to a different case, and I think you understand. So we won't need to list that person here, but there is another person that he needs to avoid.
Yes.
So are we all in agreement on that?
Yes.
Okay. So in the matter of Willie Colon, inmate number 433367, I make a motion to grant discretionary parole contingent on his completing the sex offender short-term program in the facility. And then in addition to the standard parole conditions, we're going to add domestic violence, community-based treatment for problem sexual behavior, and no contact with minors without the PO's permission. We also have a condition that he not have any contact with the victim's initials HG and HA. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Colon, did you understand all that?
Yes, sir.
And granted parole, you have to finish the sex offender treatment program.
Okay.
let me just give you a little advice too. No more DRs between now and then. It's gonna complicate the situation, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right,
I understand.
you have a couple weeks left. However long you can get through that program and then you'll be all set, okay?
I have a question.
Right.
So when I complete the program, is somebody gonna like give me a date, or they're just gonna like randomly
Yeah.
one day?
Yeah, they'll give you all this in writing and someone reach out to you and work with you, and how this is all gonna work.
Okay,
All right, good luck.
Yes, sir.
Do all those things that you said you're gonna do, okay?
I will, sir. Thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. To everybody. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what we just watched, but apparently it's a parole hearing where this kid, he talks a lot. He says, oh, don't worry about it. I'll be a bartender. The devil's lettuce made me do it. It was the devil's lettuce. Oh, I was sober when I did, but it was the devil's lettuce. It's like, what are you talking about, man? I mean, how many people watching this do the devil's lettuce and then go on to essay, a 13, 14-year-old? Raise your hands. I mean, it's like, what? No, it does not make sense. Now, who knows? Is he an actual Ch0M0, right? Like Chris Hansen always says, there's 3 types of Ch0Mos, of roaches, and there's one where they just love little ones, right? That's all they think about, dream about, sleep about. It's their life obsession. That's category 1. Category 2 is it's a crime of opportunity, right? There's no moral compass. It's, oh, you're there? Okay, what? I'll do it. Then there's 3, which is like the Romeo and Juliet. So here he's 18, she's 15. That's, or he's 19 and she's about to turn 6. It's they're dating, blah, blah, blah. My guess is that he falls under category 2, which is crime of opportunity. He's like, oh, he's going to the party to deal. They're there. But who knows? They didn't ask him any questions. They didn't say, how, and for him to catch the charges, for him to get caught, one has to assume that something went down. Someone said something. They investigated it. Like, this isn't just like the way that he's playing it off. Like, oh yeah, it's only because I did the devil's lettuce and now I did that. It's just, I hate when they don't ask questions. You don't just get caught up on these charges. Now, in the actual information in here, which Lady Holly provided, I'm just going to read it to you. It shows that he has that one of the charges, it's 5 separate charges. And one of them is a victim between the age of 13 or 14. That's what it says. So we know one was 15. The other might have been 13. 18 and 13. No, dude. Like, and I don't know why the parole board doesn't, and it's like, you got to get into the psyche. You got to ask him. And it's just a strange hearing. He's then going to be a bartender. It's like, are you kidding me? I mean, how many states do we watch that getting out, part of your conditions, you can't even be around alcohol, and now you're going to be serving it? Why are you trusting that that's going to be a good recipe for success? Oh, because he doesn't have a high drug score? Oh, let's go put you around alcohol all day. What? You're going to put someone who has a predatory history in a bar as a bartender? It's just nuts to me. And now keep in mind, in 2019 is when he catches the charge, 12/11/2019. The judge gives him bond. It's not until 2024 that he's finally sentenced. So he's out for like 4+ years. But it's not like he went on his best behavior after. No. It was within days of that charge that he got arrested again. 1/15/2020. It would have been like a couple weeks or a day of days. He gets arrested again for assault 3rd degree. What does the judge do there? Unconditional discharge. He also had interference with an officer. Unconditional discharge. So he's out on bond for SA. They let him go, basically. Then he gets another arrest, 4/12/2023. This is for harassment, a false incident report, and they were saying stalking and different things, right? And then for that, they give him suspended sentences. They let him off. He was sentenced 11 months, but suspended. Then they finally sentenced him in 2024 for this. And they give him it. They say they give him a 12-year sentence, but all suspended but 5. But here in the docket, it only says he has 4 years of sentence. And parole eligibility, it pretty much immediately. He got sentenced April 10th, 2024, and he had his parole hearing on February 26th, 2025. That's like 8 months into his sentence. And he's still locked up as of, May 28th, but that's only because he probably hasn't finished his program yet. Now he is an interesting case where I do feel like he was kind of, I don't know. I'm not diagnosing anyone. I'm only speculating on a situation like this, like Dr. Grande says, but maybe just super narcissistic. Like, he just like seems to be like this know-it-all. Oh, I was a track star. I have 3 jobs. I was, I'm doing always like answer. It's like a certain level of confidence that, and even charm, but the criminal thinking, it's off the charts. I don't know. So a weird thing about this hearing, but anyways, this hearing coming up is
inmate number 382204.
Today's video is sponsored by Aura. Did you know companies can take months to report a data breach? On average, it's 277 days before you even find out that your personal data has been exposed. Think about that. 277 days. That means that your sensitive information, like your email, your phone number, even your financial details, can already be out there. Now, it's not just one company, but major banks and corporations, they've all experienced breaches in the past year. Maybe you've seen about it in the news. Your information could be compromised right now, and you wouldn't even know it. Now, that's why I use Aura. Aura scans the dark web and alerts me fast if personal information has been leaked. If someone tries to open a bank account or credit card in my name, I'll know right away. I have been using Aura for about maybe 9 months now. Something that they also do that really helps me a lot is keep spam callers away. That's a big bonus for me. They actually remove my name from those spam caller lists. Now, they also provide up to $5 million in identity theft insurance and a full suite of tools to keep you protected. And it's all done in one app. You can try Aura for free for 14 days at aura.com/Mandoo. And that's 2 weeks to find out if your data has already been exposed before you hear from a company months later. So why wait? Get some peace of mind and try out Aura for free. Take control of your digital security right now. And now, let's go back to the hearing.
This hearing is being conducted in consideration of the parole application for Desmond Bond, 382204. He is serving a sentence of 20 years, execution suspended after 7.5 years, in addition to 1 day of conditional discharge for 26 counts of forgery first, a failure to appear first, evading responsibility, property damage/injury, operating a vehicle under the influence of alcohol or drugs, and a violation of probation with the underlying larceny state. As of today, records reflect a parole eligibility date of January 14, 2025. There is no victim input in this case. There is an offender accountability plan for the offender. It has been reviewed and shows the offender has not completed any programs to date, utilizing the statewide collaborative offender risk evaluation system. The offender overall score for the SRT falls within the high range of risk for recidivism. Mr. Bond, this is your opportunity to express to the board why you believe you should be granted parole. You may begin, sir.
All right. If granted parole, I have already secured employment with Capital City Cleaning. I am committed to returning to school to get my CDLs while also maintaining my household as a father and a husband. I have sought out counseling and therapy for my release and working to make amends for past mistakes. During my incarceration, I have worked hard to reflect on my actions and my choices I made. I took full responsibility, and that responsibility has remained with me every day. I spent time learning coping skills and participating in religious services in order to better myself. Through these skills, I can assure you that such actions will never happen again. I have a strong support system with my family who stood by me and offered guidance and support. I'm confident to my abilities to reintegrate into society as a productive, law-abiding citizen. I take full accountability for my senseless actions. I regret the poor decisions I made and the pains I caused my family and the community. I know that being granted parole is a privilege. I want to assure you that I am fully committed to my rehabilitation. I am no longer the boy I was when I arrived here. I matured into the man sitting before you. I want you to understand. I understand the importance of accountability, and I will do everything in my power to remain on the right path. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bonds. You did a good job. Thanks for putting that statement on paper. You
Yeah.
answered some of the questions that we have. So
Okay.
what's going to happen today is that done with the questions, we'll deliberate and then we'll give you our answer.
Okay.
All right, we're going to start with my colleague, Mr. Pohl.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Mr. Bonds.
Good morning.
Just to clarify, what we're here for this morning to discuss with you are 3 forgery first convictions that have not expired yet, and which carry a total effective sentence of 4 years. And those sentences are scheduled to expire on January 13th, 2027. Okay?
Yes.
And the
Yes.
reason why some of this is confusing is, you know why, right?
Yeah.
So
all of the
we were
choices.
here, the last panel had faith in you, sent you out on parole. You actually got transitional supervision, and before you were even able to make it to parole, you came back with 4 new convictions for the same offense, right?
Yes.
And I'm not here to give you a hard time, right?
Understood.
I'm not.
Understand.
And when you talked about what you talked about, I fully believe that you want to go out there and do the right thing. But my problem is that the last panel, which was relatively recently, gave you the opportunity to do that. And you went out and you committed the same types of behavior. And the thing is that what my job here is today is to find you suitable for parole or not. And what that means is that I have to have, faith that you're going to be able to go out into the community and not commit these offenses again, right? And what I'm struggling with here is that you were given the opportunity, number one, and then the second thing is that, in February and in May of last year, you were still using drugs inside.
Yeah.
And so that in itself, without having any programming, and from what I see is like a lot of this activity is driven by addiction. I can't get to I can't get to suitability today. I want you to do well. And for me, I really hope that you advocate for yourself and try to do whatever it is that you can do in the area of substance use, so that you go out and you have that time with your family and engage with that job and put your plans into work, right?
Yes.
Not too late to turn it around.
I understand.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have anything further.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Pohl. I'm gonna just ask you a couple questions, sir. I did see the letter from Capital Cleaning Service, and it appears that's a family member of yours?
Yes. My brother.
Okay. So that's good. You got something good going for you, is like the support of your family. Some people, as you probably know, when you talk to people inside, they don't have that kind of support. So you need to use those resources when you're, when you're ready. And if you could, I would make sure, regardless of what happens today, you stay in touch with your family and your brother.
Yes,
And
they've
if
been
they're
with, they've
willing,
been with me. Yeah,
Go
they've
ahead.
been with me through the whole incarceration. So
Okay. Yeah, you're gonna need that level of support from your family, other people, so you don't slip back into this thing. Can you just talk about why you were counterfeiting this money? Like, what was going on in your mind when you had multiple times at different periods of doing the same kind of behavior? What was going on?
well, the first time, I mean, I have an addiction, and as you know, like I've been trying to get help, and what it is like I come here and I do the time, but I actually never get help from on the outside and on the inside. Like I've been writing for programs and things, and I never really got that. So addiction really drove me hanging around the same people that doesn't have my best interest, and like family losses, and I just fell back into the I take full accountability for me just going back into my old ways and going to the habits of hanging around people and just picking up bad habits. So I mean, pretty much just try to feed my addiction and sneaking and making sure that my family didn't know. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah. They seem to want to help you and be supportive. You need to make sure they know when you're struggling. Like you can't, you know what I mean? You got to get away from that. That mindset that you have to hide what's going on in your life from your family to people that want to help,
yes,
You want to have programs, you want to beat addiction, you need to let people help you.
yes,
So it sounded like at some point during this, you might have been living out of your car. Does that sound right?
yes.
So how are you managing to make this money? How are you managing to do this?
Well, I had a friend, and he basically like I wasn't making it. He was basically just supplying me with it because
Okay.
obviously. So and I was living out my car, and he just called me. We just want to get high, and
Yeah.
it just
Okay. So you weren't the one making these bills. Someone else was doing it, and the two of you were then trying to change
yeah,
that
just
into real money to get drugs. Okay. So what's going on with the disciplinary reports? You talked about not being able to get into programs, and you need to have tier 4. There's a lot of stuff that you need to do to be ready, right? But these disciplinary reports, as you know, like when you get a ticket, they put you at the back of the list for these programs, and you got to wait. So you're doing that to yourself, So what's the problem that you can't, manage inside without getting disciplinary reports?
Well, the following direct order, it was before the courts and stuff, but the dirty urine and the specimen, like I don't have it on my OAP. So and here, like they don't if it's not on your OAP, then they push you to the back of the line, no matter how many times you write. So the only thing that's on my OAP is voices, which I have wrote, and I've been in this jail for 2 years. Even before that, but before even getting a ticket, they still wouldn't let me in there. I've been writing, and then they just like, yo, listen, I'm like, hey, I got parole coming up. I'm trying to just hurry up and do this. And then after a while, it's just like, I'm in here and there's really nothing for me to do. I really wanted to, better myself and just find a job and do that. But, when you're around criminals, you do criminal acts, and I take full accountability for, my actions.
All right. I mean, you definitely need programs, and as you get closer to the end of your sentence, you're going to have a better chance of getting them, but not if you got disciplinary reports. And listen, if you go out without taking tier 4 or doing something, that you're at a risk, right? That's a risky situation for you, not having completed some kind of treatment program before you get out.
Yes.
And really, it's up to you. I understand you're writing for programs and stuff, but at some point they're going to give it to you. But not if you have these disciplinary reports, not following orders, all these things that are going on. You have to find a way to just get through one day at a time without getting these tickets, okay? So that you can get into the program. My advice to you is if you get out and you don't have these programs, you need to get yourself into an IOP, some kind of a program when you get out before things start going sideways. You do.
Yeah, I have that set up to go in the Willard Clinic, like pending my release. Whenever I get released, I have counseling and therapy, and I'm really going to try to get help.
Okay, good. All right, well, that's the right mindset to have, you know? I mean, you have a drug and alcohol score of 4 in DOC, and I don't know if you know that, but 5 is the highest. So you're right at the top, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's the driving force behind all these things, right? And that's where you
Yes.
gotta make, that's where the corrections gotta be made and where to avoid all this other stuff.
Yes.
Just checking to see if there's anything else here that I wanted to ask you about. No, that's really it. My colleagues talked to you about a couple of things. So I'm going to turn it over to panel member Smith Palmieri and see if she has anything for you, sir.
Okay, so Mr. Bonds, there's really not a lot of questions that can be asked. You were out on parole, transitional supervision, and you obviously struggled, and here you are today. I want to point out just a couple of things. In your opening statement, you said, you know, you were young, you were, you know, not really thinking. I'm going to point out that you're 33 years old, and in 2017, you were 25, so you're not really a kid. And then you were 25, you were 30, 31, 32. So I'm not really sure that you can fall back on being young and immature. And I'll just piggyback on my colleague in that you will need to advocate for yourself, whether you get programming through the Department of Corrections, parole, or probation. As you have seen, you set up with Wheeler Clinic, that you're able to go there on your own. Have you been in drug treatment before?
No, I haven't. Just Wheeler Clinic, but I was never home enough to actually follow through with it.
Okay. Have you done any work while you've been in the facility with any 12-step program or support programs through AA or NA?
No.
Is that available to you while you're incarcerated?
I mean, it's a specific list. Like anybody you just can't go in there. Like they just don't allow you to just go. You have to be on the list and you have to sign up for the list. And then the list is like, wait a minute. Yeah.
Have you put yourself on the list?
I mean, I put myself on the list, but I never got on it. I've been writing, but I never got on the list.
All right. All right. Well, as my colleague said, the disciplinary reports certainly don't help you advance on the list. All right, Mr. Bonds, I agree with both my colleagues that, you know, what we have before us today does not make you really suitable to go out on parole, but there's a lot of opportunity while you finish your sentence to get treatment and kind of figure out how to live productively in the community.
All right.
Best of luck to you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. All right, Mr. Bond, we're going to get ready to deliberate now. We just ask that during this time while we're talking, you can listen, but just please don't interrupt. And then we'll give you our answer when we're done. Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I stated, I appreciate that Mr. Bonds has an attitude of wanting to better himself and such, but the way all of this unfolded, the new charges while I'm in transition supervision before he even get discretionary parole, and his, the disciplinary reports that he received, I cannot find Mr. Bond suitable for parole this time.
Thank you, panel member Paul. Yeah, I agree. He rates out high. He's had trouble on community supervised release in the past, and he hasn't been able to get to the programs. Partly, I believe, because of his disciplinary reports. So he has more work to do. And I'm hoping that he takes our advice that we've talked to him about today and keep advocating for himself and avoid these disciplinary reports so that he can get what he needs before he's released in a sentence. So, panel member Smith Palmieri.
I have nothing to add. I'm in agreement with what already has been noted.
Okay. So, I'm gonna look at the reasons here, and I have poor institutional adjustment, inadequate evidence of offender change, inadequate institutional program participation. I don't need, if we need to add poor performance on community release, or if you want
It's committed well for transitional supervision.
transitional supervision. What about those other three? You want to add 4, or we just need 3 here?
I think inadequate program participation, poor institutional adjustment, and transitional supervision
Or not?
are
Okay.
sufficient.
Okay. So in regards to Desmond Bonds, inmate number 382204. I make a motion to deny discretionary parole based on poor institutional adjustment, inadequate institutional program participation, and his current offense was committed while in transitional supervision. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Mr. Bonds, we couldn't find our way today based on all of the facts that we discussed to grant you parole, but we wish you the best of luck and please try to keep advocating for yourself. You need to do what's best for you. Use the support of your family, people that want to help you, that love you, want to do the right thing for you. Stay away from these
All right.
other people. Stay away from these other
All right,
people.
thank
You
you.
know that. You're welcome. Good luck.
This
All
concludes
right.
the hearing for Desmond Bond, 82204. You'll see all this in writing, Mr. Bond. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Discretionary parole. Let these child molesters and everything go, right?
Criminal
Yeah,
history.
Child.
Mr. Mercado, please let me finish. Inadequate
Hold on.
institution program participation, no evidence of offender change, and poor institutional adjustment.
Second.
All those in favor?
Let these
Motion carries.
child molesters go, though,
You're all
right?
set,
Y'all
Mr.
come
Mercado.
late.
You'll receive all this in
Y'all
writing.
And these child molesters. I don't know if you've seen that hearing before, but basically the guy who came up right before him gave a 5-year-old an STD, got a really light sentence, got paroled, and he's rightfully pissed off. And saying you let these chomos out, you let them out, and you don't let me. And he has a point. The parole board, for some reason they view chomos as low risk. Like get him out of here. Don't worry about it. He got a 5-year-old an STD. The insanity of that. And but those there's no doubt that the prison has a reputation for doing that. It must just be. It's just everyone knows, and it's just got to be infuriating. But here's something about this case. This guy, I don't feel animosity towards him. He doesn't have any violent offenses. It's all the classic, petty theft kind of stuff. He actually seems kind of defeated. I almost felt bad for him. Don't know how he got the eye thing, if that's a permanent thing or new. But he is, this crime what he does is the reason why our deodorant bottles are locked up in the pharmacy. When you walk into the pharmacy, you got to get a clerk to come over and open the door so you can buy something. And it's not even his fault. He's an addict, right? He needs to get his fix. It's the weak DAs that have this ideology. You see it in New York, Connecticut, San Francisco, where they're like, oh no, we need to be warm and nice to the addict. We can't lock them up. We can't hold them on bond. And then what do you get? They could probably go by the slogan, right? Lock up our deodorant, but don't lock up the criminal, right? Because look at this. Look at what Lady Holly has. 29 convictions. And these records only are shared with us for the past 10 years. And it just goes down the list. Larceny, 6th degree, and it goes on. Everything is larceny. And you look at the dates, and every sentence is suspended. Larceny. It's on 1, 2, 3, 4 pages. What are we on? 4 pages? Do we go to 5 pages? It just goes on and on and on and on. 6 pages of arrest and forgery, right? Forgery, larceny. It's like just insane. It's the DA's fault. That they don't have empathy, I'm saying have empathy for him, for the inmate, because he can't help himself, but you keep releasing him out there and he's going to go and he's going to find a way to commit a crime to get his narcotics. And I got to give him credit that he doesn't have any violent offenses, any assaults, any chomo activity. He's just being released by a weak DA on bond and whatnot. And then he'll go out and commit another crime. 29 felonies in 10 years. It's madness. But there you have it. Everyone, Lady Holly has fallen ill. She's going through a lot. It's crazy. We have Sir Richard and Lady Holly both, fighting some serious stuff. Lady Holly was wounded when she was overseas, and she's struggling with a lot of stuff. And this is This actually is not related to that. She's a fighter, though. She is a fighter, but Sir Richard has jumped back in, which is really nice to see him. It's back in the helm of things. But say a prayer for Lady Holly, send a comment, send some love, and with that, I'll let you go.
Questionnaire parole.
Let these child molesters
Or-
and everything go, right?
Criminal
Yeah,
history.
Child,
Mr.
know,
Mercado, please let me finish. Inadequate
Hello.
institution program participation, no evidence of expended change, and poor institutional adjustment.
Second.
All those in favor?
let these
Motion carries.
child molesters go though,
You're all
right?
set,
Y'all
Mr.
come
Mercado.
late.
We'll receive all
Y'all
this in
come
writing.
late.